good afternoon. My name's Jazzmine, my pronouns are she, her, and pretty much with my, me coming as me, I've been who I am now as Jazzmine for about 3 years. I came out 3 years ago. So leading up to that point was a bit of a journey. So I first realised that I was trans when I was about 6 years old. And I had friends that were more feminine than kind of masculine, and it kind of went on throughout school. So again, I got bullied throughout school, people saying that I was gay, and it's like, no, I'm not gay, I'm something else. But internally I couldn't say what I was because I wasn't sure. So it's like, okay, I am this way, but right now is not the right time to do this because I didn't know anyone was trans at all going through what I was going through. So I then just made a promise to myself when I was 11 that I would not tell a soul of how I felt internally. But later on down the line, bullying stopped, etc. I went into secondary school completed, tried A-levels, didn't kind of work out with A-levels, so I went into working. So I ended up working all the way up in the phone industry for about 8 years till I joined Nestle in 2019, and then worked there until I started Halfords this year. So throughout being at Nestle and coming to York, because I'm originally from Canterbury in Kent, I was with a partner, and that partner asked me a question. This is what kind of clicked in my head when I realised, okay, I need to kind of do something about how I feel, was the fact, they asked me, do you want to be with me, or do you want to be me? And that was the question where I was like, well, okay, I think I've got to do something about that now. So I ended up getting therapy and talking to someone, figuring out who I was. And I then thought, I will come out as I am Jazzmine. Jazz has always been my name ever since birth. It's always been my middle name. But I've then swapped it, put it as my first name, Jazz, and then added M-I-N-E onto it. And then my mum chose my middle name now, which is Lydia. So my dad actually chose my middle name originally. So I thought it would be just fair for my mum to choose my middle name now. So yeah, all my family is so supportive with everything and stuff. But yeah, it's just one of those things, you can't help who you are, but at the end of the day, you just have to live life as happy as you can be, really. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just happy, with when it comes to having kids and stuff. I've been on the fence with it for quite a while, but again, thinking about it now, thinking about how life is and how the world is, it's not really something I would probably take on board until a lot later down the line, if I want to. But at this moment, it's no. I'll leave that there.
Thank you very much indeed, Jazz.
That's me.
Lovely. Excellent.
Oh, just before I pause, actually, I'll add in.
Go on then.
So, of course, I've been out as transgender for 3 years. I am now 28 years old. So just age, I don't know if that has a different kind of aspect to it, but I don't know. We'll get Martina's view on that in just a moment.
Thank you, Sue. I'm Martina. And I usually, when I'm saying that, I start by saying, I'm Martina and I'm an addict. Because that's the reality of my life. I was born at a time when basically being trans wasn't something that had actually been invented, I don't believe. But I'm sure that a lot of people were, and a lot of people basically lived their lives as best they could without necessarily having that sort of title attached to them. And for a long time, I didn't know that was possible. I knew from a very, very early age that basically there was something that made me feel as though I didn't quite fit with the society's norms, and so I sort of assumed that I was gay, or if I'd known the word for it then, it would have been bisexual, and whenever I was Yeah, I mean, basically, as far as my sexual sort of fantasies and realities, yeah, I'm quite happy to be, or I was quite happy to perform the male aspect of sex, but only whenever I was like exploring my gayness, I would basically always want to be treated entirely as a woman. And that basically put this sort of amazing conflict into my life. So I buried myself in my work. I'm an addict, and I'm addicted to work, I'm addicted to exercise, I'm addicted to food, I'm addicted to sex, I'm addicted to everything that makes me feel good. And actually the strange reality is that now actually this sort of stuff makes me feel good, because I feel as though I'm giving something back. I keep what I have by giving it away, and I do that fairly extensively in a 12-step fellowship as well. Until this last weekend on an international level, but that's changed. So, how did I actually come to be here? As I was about to shoot myself for the second time in a 7-year period, I'm sat in my car in a place where I shouldn't be, looking for guys to treat me as a woman, and a few other complications that went with that. And I had drunk so much that I decided the only sensible thing to do, I couldn't get out of this situation, the only sensible thing to do was to go myself. And as I reached for the implement to do so, the police arrived and arrested me for the second time in 7 years as I was reaching for the implement. I had the wherewithal to do it. And in the back of that police car, something happened, something changed in my life, because I had spent many years realising that I was living a false life, and a few other bits and pieces that were causing a sort of certain amount of stress and what have you. So I took to the bottle, and still managed to work, in inverted commas, quite successfully, I think. Maybe other people didn't think I was working as successfully as I should have been. And so, I'm sat in this car, and I've got 4 gorgeous daughters at home. I've got a thriving business that we set up by ourselves. And I've got everything that anybody could ever want on an outside, and inside I was dying. And I say something happened in the back of that car, and I went from wanting to die to wanting to live, and I don't really know what it was that changed that. What I do know is that I ended up in therapy. I ended up in rehab. Strangely enough, I didn't actually need detoxifying for some bizarre reason. And so one of the first things that one of the counsellors in this rehab said to me, having read my life story, is, "Have you never considered gender realignment?" Then I was very rude to him and suggested you'd be a bit better off if you went a long way away and multiplied somewhere else and stopped asking me stupid questions. And just in doing that, that gave me permission to look at things in a totally different way. And I was then able to sort of, through, I don't know if anybody has any knowledge of 12-step fellowships, but basically part of that is looking at ourselves, looking internally with the help of whatever power one happens to have, and I have no idea what mine is, but it's there. And so in the process of doing that, what I uncovered was actually that there was another me inside. And no wonder it was, there was turmoil. My body, my mind, my spirit, and my mind and my heart were all sort of slightly different somehow, and they were at conflict with each other. And now they're not, because basically that has been done. So I started my exploration of Martina in 2003. And basically I spoke to my doctor in 2009. He referred me to the community psychologist. He should have been a psychiatrist, but the psychologist was in Scarborough Hospital overlooking Scarborough Technical College, where basically I had gone to cram for my A-levels. And I looked out there as I was talking to this lady and thinking, my God, how different would my life have been at that time, when for the first time in my life, away from the confines of home and school and society to a certain extent, being able to explore myself. How would it have been if I'd known who I was then? But the reality is I suspect I'd have been dead, because I suspect I would have been high and suffered the consequences as so many of the people at that sort of time did. I'm now 75. So, you know, in the 1950s and 60s, you know, things were very, very different. And so, and in that process then basically, I was gradually able to work out who I was. Basically, I changed my name in 2014, so I didn't have to stand up in court as an expert witness and say I'm who I was before in a public scenario, for the point of view of basically protecting my daughters rather than for any other reason. And that was seen as the you know, when I was honest about that to the gender clinics, they said, oh, so you're not really sure? No, come on. I mean, I'm changing here. 50-something, 60, nearly 60 years of my life I've lived, and I've got to work out whether or not that's a sensible thing to do or the right thing to do. I was enabled to walk down to surgery in 2018 knowing I was doing the right thing. I had no doubt about it whatsoever, and basically my life since has demonstrated that. And so, yeah, I feel as though I'm now, you know, my body, my mind, my spirit, and my heart are in sync, and they are there. And a bit of me says, okay, Martin, and now you've sorted out what the problem was, maybe you can have a social drink. I pray God that I am able to share that stupid thought with my friends and not actually do that, because it would be mayhem. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. So hey, that's me.
That's brilliant.
Is the question. Right. So, with coming out as transgender, there are different things that I didn't know that might pop up, that has popped up since transitioning, if that makes any sense. So, for example, how people treat you is different to being a guy. It's just pretty much everything kind of flips over, so it's a whole different kind of life. But again, regretting it, no, I don't have any regrets at all from doing it. The only thing I kind of miss, I would say, is how I used to get things done more efficiently being as a guy instead of being feminine. Because, I don't know, if you're a guy, you tend to get things done quicker. I don't know, it's just like the perception of being a guy, you can do more things, is how it used to feel back in the day. But now it's like, it's different. It's a whole different dynamic, really. Yeah. How about you?
No regrets.
Yeah.
Definitely no regrets. Throughout my life, basically, or certainly no regrets about exploring the possibilities of being transgender.
Yeah.
It came as a bit of a shock. Actually, I mean, my friends say, oh, forget it was a bit of a shock. I said, nothing like the shock it came to me, I can tell you. And so, yeah, throughout my life, basically, when I look back and I try and think of regrets, it's always something that I didn't do and had the opportunity. And I have no doubt that if I had thought, well, you know, that's probably not the easiest thing from the point of view of the family, society, and what have you, then basically I don't know what rest of the last 20 years of my life would have been like, but I don't think there would have been the happy, joyous and free time that they have been, to quite the same extent.
Every transition is different. There's no two transitions that are the same. So, myself personally, to get things sorted through the NHS is a challenge, and it has always been a challenge for me. I still haven't fully sorted it out through the NHS. So I've actually gone through Gender GP for my transition to enable me to get the right treatment that I require to be happy and feel normal. So yeah, it's always a challenge really, I would say, trying to get things sorted through the NHS, because not only are they struggling with transgender stuff, it's other things as well that they're struggling with, and it's just the lack of staff, I would say, really, with the NHS at the moment. Also with different reports, well, you may have heard what they
CAS report is and stuff like that, that has had a massive effect on being able to get seen or get the right treatment easier than how you would be able to previously. So, yeah, it's quite tricky, isn't it? I would say. Because now, shared care agreements have now changed, so you can then only be accepted with a shared care agreement if you're under what's called the Leeds GIC clinic, which is in, of course, Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know where you are with your transition.
Oh my goodness, right,
Yeah.
okay. The process. Yes, first of all, basically, as I said, I had to go through my doctor, which was the first thing that I did. And then basically there are psychiatric assessments that are necessary, and also I had to register with the Leeds Gender Clinic. And after 2.5 appointments with the Leeds Gender Clinic, I was told by this 18-year-old, whatever, that I clearly needed more time, because I had elected to have my pronouns as, or my prefix as MX, as opposed to Miss or Mrs. or Ms even. And so that was an indication that I was not convinced about where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
So basically then they said, you know, and I walked out of that and I screamed when I got outside, and I said, no way. So I insisted on a referral. The Leeds Gender Clinic insisted on sending my my full report and what have you to the clinic in Sheffield.
Yeah.
I arrived at the clinic in Sheffield, and the lead psychiatrist basically sort of said, "Hi, come in." I said, "I've received your report from the Leeds Gender Clinic, but I haven't even opened it." And I breathed such a sigh of relief and thought, "Thank you so much." And so basically the process from then on was relatively straightforward. And you know, the reality of it is that I didn't, it's not a choice. It really is not a choice. You know, people say, "Oh, you're so brave." And I think, no, actually, I wasn't. You know, I'm not. This is essential. If I am going to live and be happy and be free to be me, then this is what I have to do. And so the difficulty, for me, the big difficulty is that I had, you know, I was, in inverted commas, happily married on the outside of things. And I still have an incredible amount of feeling of guilt of having effectively driven a bulldozer through the family dynamic. I mean, mercifully, the kids had all been, you know, their education was at a stage when basically it wasn't going to have a dramatic effect, but it so could have done. And so, yeah, does that answer the question? The process depends basically on convincing people who have no idea what they're talking about, have no personal experience of what they're talking about, how it feels, to actually that effectively you are affected by something that they cannot understand. And that's why basically, to my way of thinking, there are so many of us who commit suicide before they get to where we are. They're like me. They become addicted to something else, and that can be all sorts of things. And so, you know, as Jazz said, every transition is individual and different. And so it's certainly not easy. And I have to say, as far as my experience of the health service in this country, I feel so blessed to be able to have that facility to enable me to be me.
I have to just add as well, I presume it was kind of an easy process or an easier process for you to have what you needed done as comparison to today. Waiting times to even be seen by the Leeds GIC, you're looking at about 3 to 5 years. At the minimum.
Yeah, okay, good point.
So that's where I'm standing right now. I'm like, I've been waiting on this list for so long now.
The lead-in time was, as I say, very much the same. I mean, it was
Really?
It was 9. Yeah, I mean, basically,
Yeah.
I approached my doctor in 2009. and basically, and I changed my name whilst I was under in the care of the Leeds GIC,
Yeah.
and that was in 2014. So, and then my surgery was 2018. So the lead-in time was actually very similar. Mine would have been slightly shorter if the doctor had referred me, my own doctor had referred me to the community psychiatrist rather than the community psychologist. That would have cut out 2 years. But actually, now then, and I think that this may be an age-related factor. For me, I was glad that it was a slow process. I was glad that I had time to basically look at all the sort of, well, to explore it and be basically gently led on to the next step.
Yeah.
Always aware of the fact that I didn't necessarily have to take that next step. I could always go back at any time.
Yeah.
And I'm on my way down to King's Cross and I've had the surgery and I'm thinking, this is the end of the line, Martina. It's all done, it's all sorted now. And I get to King's Cross and I cross over the road and I go to St Pancras to get the train out to Wimbledon. I think, it's not the end of the line at all. There's a whole new book here. Just keep going.
Wow.
So and there is, basically. There's no doubt about it. It's a continuing process. I'm not sure that necessarily it's any easier now than it was.
Wow, that's actually opened my mind a bit.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, not just self-harming thoughts. I was very good at harming myself. And basically this went from self-flagellation to burning myself with cigarettes in certain places. And effectively, yeah, if CBT means anything to anybody, it refers to the male genitalia, then basically I would inflict that upon myself quite regularly. And my fantasies were often associated around being punished. About that, there's no doubt at all. In fact, I would seek out punishment. I would deliberately play truant at school and mess about at school so I'd get beaten. Definitely. Yeah. You know, the figures speak for themselves and in many ways, but so many suicides are unexplained, aren't they?
Tell them about the bridge experience.
Only if you promise to ask Des a question afterwards.
Yeah.
Right, okay. It was a bright sunny day, it was August, and I was walking down from a recovery cafe that we held in the convent at the bottom of Blossom Street, and it was a bright sunny day and I was wearing a very clingy, sort of brightly coloured dress, a bit of a patterned dress, and somebody, and I got to this, I was on my way to see my boyfriend who at the time was working in somewhere, and basically I was halfway across Lendal Bridge and this imaginary cloak, you want to call it shroud, that sounds horrible, so it just descended and it was soft and chiffon and see-through and invisible, but basically it was warm and it was comforting, and on the outside it was chainmail, and it just said to me, Martina, it does not matter what anybody else thinks if what you're doing, if what you're about to do expresses more of you, more of life, more of happiness, joy and peace, and at the same time harms no one, including yourself, which was important at that time, then it's okay. Go ahead, do it, enjoy it. So we got to had the cuddle in the back of the bookshop, back to the car, and yeah, there's a bit of a continuation to the story, but there was a message from my daughter on my phone saying, Dad, we're back from our year's trip to the Far East. Mum says you can come to tea, as long as you don't come to Martina. And I said, I can't do that, I'll see you tomorrow. And so that was actually, that incident and that response, I'm sure, was the beginning of my wife's then alienated wife basically beginning to be more involved in my life. Do I continue to the next bit? So having said I never want to see Martina anywhere near me, my life, or my house or my children, shortly after that she basically invited me round for a meal before a significant birthday I was having, and as I left the house after this lovely meal she gave me a card. Inside the card was a note, attached to the note was some money, and it said, "This is to help you replace the week you singed in front of the fire, because I know you're going to have to look your best for your party." And I think, what an amazing woman. You know, I got something right, certainly chose the right one. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, your turn. Your turn.
Wow.
Your turn. Go on, give us a high spot.
High spots.
A high spot.
High spots. Gosh, I still can't think. What's the most challenging thing you've faced since you've been?
Oh, I was expecting
There
you
were
to say.
you.
I
Oh,
don't
no,
know
it's
that high
okay.
spot from you.
Wait, what does that mean?
I can take that later if that.
A high
if we
spot
want.
for me.
Well, yeah. What was the most sort of oh my goodness, this is amazing moment in your transition so far?
That is a very good question. My goodness me. I think actually it keeps on happening. So
Good.
every week that goes by, I would say like it keeps on happening. But the most recent time that I was kind of really blown away with my kind of transition and stuff was Halloween. Dressed up, it was kind of witchy and stuff, and then took some really good photos. Had my hair done as well. So got some Reddit. Kind of awesome vibes. And yeah, I took some photos and I was like, no way. You know what, I cannot believe how far I've come. I'm so proud of myself, you know, that actually being free and being me, being normal, you know, it's just like, what? yeah. But just keeps on happening. Honestly, yeah, I surprised myself ever such a lot when I just like about to go out or something, about to do a podcast, you know, it's just like, whoa, this is really happening, this is life now, you know.
Way. As a trustee of Dementia Forward, one of our key things is obviously to ensure that people, as they start to live with dementia, have as full a life as possible and are well supported. In my role as a trustee for Dementia Forward, which covers York and North Yorkshire, I have campaigned reasonably successfully for the LGBT community and the gay community in particular, because for a vast proportion of the gay community who are now learning to live with dementia, they were classed as bad and mad for a number of years, and it, therefore, when they do develop dementia, it puts them back to scary times. So, Sexual Offences Act didn't come into operation until 1967, and that was only in England and Wales. So, up till that time, you were classed as a criminal, and the World Health Organisation did not declassify being gay as a mental illness until 1990. We didn't get equality until 2000. So the gay community has only been free for about 24 years. So it's very difficult for people that develop dementia. So then my next thought has been, and in recent times, how are we going to ensure that those that have transitioned, one way or the other, get the care, support and understanding that they need if they develop dementia later on in life? Because it could put you back to a scary time when you're coming to terms with which way you want to go. And all right, you might not be classed as criminals, which is great, but how would you expect that organisation to look after you? What do we need to do? It might be something you don't want to discuss now, but it might be a private conversation we could have, so that I could make sure that Dementia Forward starts to think about what we need to do for the future. And the future might not be far away. I don't wish to be unkind to my dear friend Martina, but hopefully she never developed dementia, but as she's just already pointed out, she's 75, bless her. It's going to be a difficult time, and we just want to make sure that we're doing what's right for those people if and when dementia sets in. Let's face it, the LGBT community as a whole has poor mental health anyway, which is unfortunate because of coming to terms with what life might hold for them and which path they should go down. So, yes, you don't want to answer now, we'll have a private discussion sometime, but I would be interested to know what you think we ought to be thinking about for the future. Thank
Can
you.
I just ask Neil, do you mean that if once somebody has dementia, they spend a large proportion of their life in their head in the past? Is that kind of what happens?
They can do.
I'm very concerned about this as well, is the fact that if you get dementia and you're a trans person and you go backwards, how are you going to be feeling as you go backwards through the years, and how are your support people, Alzheimer's Society or wherever you are, how are they going to be able to support you in the moment you are as the disease progresses? It's a really, really scary thought.
It is. Yeah.
Really, really.
I would say, because every transition is unique,
Oh,
it would
yeah,
be
agree.
specifically down to the individual's
Yes.
needs at that time being if they get dementia. So, myself personally, I would prefer to be called she, her, Jazzmine, but again, if I do get dementia and I start to go more kind of masculine, then of course, carrying on the same kind of, respect as I was previously would be probably the best way to go. But again, saying that, if the person has dementia and they are saying, oh, call me by something else, if it makes them happy in that moment, for you to then call them that, then that's what they would like.
I think it's essential that if dementia does start to set in and you are looking to seek support, that you feel comfortable in a safe space where you can actually express yourself how you wish to be addressed and looked after, and you need to make sure that you've got your chosen family with you rather than your biological family, because so many biological families disown their loved one because they've transitioned. Unfortunately in my family we don't have that issue because my nephew has transitioned and we're all fine about it and we'll make sure that everything goes well. But just want to make sure that we as an organisation, talking Dementia Forward, wearing that hat, that we're actually sort of, we talk about it as part of what we do in Free to Be Me in Care, but I just wonder, is there anything else that we ought to be thinking about to make sure that we do give a respectful, supportive service?
Mary.
We'll have a chat.
Yes,
We'll have a
please,
chat.
please. Yeah, think about it. Let's have a chat. Yeah.